My gaming backlog is honestly insanely massive. Like, I have almost 200 unfinished games in my Steam library. A lot of them I just never got very far in, but others are completely untouched. Combine that with all the games I need to finish on other platforms, and I'm looking at over 180 games I own but have never completed. Now, that's kind of an embarrassing amount, so I think it's time to do something about it. Don't worry though, I have a genius plan that'll help me get through it all. One of those big spinny wheels. So I'm thinking that every once in a while I'll just give this thing 3 spins and play whatever comes up, and as long as I keep at it, I'll probably get through it eventually, right? In the interest of time, I'm not going to worry about actually finishing any of these. I'll play them for at least 2 hours each, but after that I can drop them whenever I want. Which games will I see through to the end? Well, there's really only one way to find out. Welcome to the Backslog. Oh, first up we have Vampyr, a game from the studio behind Life is Strange. In Vampyr, you play as Jonathan Reed, a doctor returning to London from the front lines of World War I at the height of the Spanish flu. But oh my goodness, you've just been turned into some kind of vampire. So now you have to manage your newfound thirst for blood alongside your doctorly desire to heal the sick as you try to fight back against the pandemic and figure out who turned you into a vampire and why. I want to start off by saying I really wanted to like Vampyr. On paper, it combines a lot of elements from games I absolutely love, but in practice, it feels more like trying to stick pieces from different puzzles together, so in the end, all that's left is a big jumble that doesn't quite fit together properly. It's not quite a Souls-like, it's not quite an immersive sim, but it is interesting, so let me explain. The combat feels like a very sluggish and clunky attempt at a Bloodborne-type situation, with spongy enemies that can just have hyper armor whenever they want, and parries that whiff even when it really feels like they shouldn't. It really doesn't feel very good, and it only gets harder when enemies quickly start to outlevel you the further you progress. This is by design, because if you want to keep pace with your enemies, you better start chomping on your fellow Londoners because you are very close to leveling up, and they look like just enough XP. The more information you gather about the game's various NPCs, the more experience you'll get to spend on your vampire powers once you suck up their tasty plasma. That actually sounds like a really cool way to incentivize exploration and NPC interaction, and even give you some neat roleplay and storytelling options. Honestly, I think the only thing that would ruin it would be some kind of stupid binary morality system. Listen, I'm all for using game mechanics to tell a narrative, but when I ate the very obviously bad guy with no redeeming qualities and got the fucked up evil eyes for the rest of the game, I immediately realized what level of nuance I was working with here. I don't believe that a game has to be traditionally fun to be good, but there's something about the execution of this very played out morality system, especially in a post-Undertale world, that feels very lacking. At the core of the game is the district health system, where NPCs have a chance to contract and spread illnesses every time you rest to level up. Healing people has the obvious benefit of potentially giving you more experience later down the line, but also if you let the health of a district deteriorate too much, it enters the cool zone and the whole district is flooded with enemies. This can lock you out of NPC quest lines and make traversal a real hassle, so you really want to keep an eye on that meter, even if you're doing a no-kill run. On paper, this is a good way to keep the player engaged no matter what path they take, but in practice, it just makes being a good guy extremely tedious. If you're not killing people, you don't really have to interact with them much outside of doing regular check-ins to maintain your district health, which sounds pretty easy, but when you're underleveled, getting from one place to another is a huge ordeal. You see, this game doesn't have any fast travel, which makes it insanely annoying if someone on the other side of town from you gets sick, because you will have to hoof it across the entire map if you want to make things easier for yourself later down the line. Seriously, the backtracking is so egregious that I found myself holding off on leveling up until I absolutely had to because managing district health is just so annoying. The map isn't that big, but when you have to engage with almost every enemy along the way, it gets really tiring really fast. There's a stealth power you can unlock, but it's very limited and has a really long cooldown, so that combined with a lack of verticality in the level design means that you can't just sneak your way around most enemies either. Plus these cardinal dudes can just see right through your stealth anyway. Awesome. Also, the boss fights are generally pretty terrible, especially the ones where you have to fight multiple enemies, and especially the one where you have to fight infinitely spawning ads with poison cloud AoEs, while the main boss is doing some Luffy shit to you. All of these pain points are trying to funnel you into sucking blood. Also, the game can get mad at you for breaking the arbitrary moral boundaries that it set. Yes, I get it. It sucks to be a vampire, and sometimes it's hard to do the right thing, but I don't think the game is exempt from criticism because of that. Especially because you can brain 50 nameless vampire hunters with a spiked bat and suck their blood no problem, but the second you lay hands on a confirmed abuser or an arms dealer who literally wants to build a wall between the rich and the poor, you've crossed a line that can never be uncrossed. I'll admit, a lot of my gripes with the game are down to me feeling a compulsion to always get the good ending in these kinds of games, so maybe if you're more into the roleplay aspect, you'll have an easier time buying into all this. But personally, I'd prefer to roleplay in Final Fantasy XIV, where I can take on a number of different jobs as I battle my way across Eorzeal. I will say, every time I felt like putting Vampyr down for good, there was something new that grabbed my attention. Like this vampire with yaoi hands showing up out of nowhere, or Jonathan's sister coming back from the dead and being incredibly pissed about being a vampire, or this boy whose sole friend is a rat. There are tons of characters with interesting stories to uncover and some cool developments throughout the main quest, and I do feel like I robbed myself of some of that because I didn't really engage much with the side quests. The writing across the board is pretty good, except for the incredibly forced romance between Jonathan and his vampire mentor Lady Ashbury. But overall, I feel like the good outweighed the bad here. Unfortunately, at the end of the day, trying to truck on to see more of the story while severely underleveled and getting increasingly frustrated with the combat didn't really make me want to give in and suck more blood. It just made me want to turn the game off. I think it could have been something really special, but it just doesn't want to commit to its coolest ideas, so ultimately it ends up falling a little short. But that's enough about Vampyr. Let's spin the wheel again. Soulstice. Interesting. For years now, character action games have felt like a dying breed, mainly kept alive by Capcom and Platinum Games. And while there are a bunch of indie games looking to fill that space nowadays, back in 2021, when Soulstice was announced at the PC Gaming Show, it immediately caught my attention. A dark fantasy hack and slash where you can do Devil May Cry combos with the transforming sword axe thing? Sign me the fuck up. In Soulstice, you play as Briar, a woman who's been fused with the soul of her sister Lute to become a super soldier known as the Chimera. And together, you two have to fuck shit up on a mission to prevent reality from tearing apart over the fallen city of Ilden. Right off the bat, the game looks great. The use of sweeping, wide-shot camera angles to show off the scenery is wonderful. Love me an apocalyptic fantasy city. The character designs lean more stylized, with a good mix of realistic shading and bold outlines that really make them pop out against the backgrounds. I think it works really well for the vibe the game is going for. The combat itself is pretty standard. You've got the light and heavy, and oh, what the fuck is that? So something you should probably be aware of with Soulstice is that it's not really a game like Bayonetta or Devil May Cry. It's actually more like God of War, or DMC Devil May Cry. You know, the reboot, with this guy.
Fuck you!
Now, I think those are perfectly fine and enjoyable games for what they are, but depending on what you like in a character action game, hearing that comparison might sound like 15 9/11s to you, and honestly, I can't blame you for that. The game lures you in by doing the Bayonetta opening bar for bar, but before long you'll be using color-coded abilities to fight color-coded enemies, which is famously something that people love to do in character action games. A lot of the design decisions here feel very antithetical to player expression, which really sucks because that's my favorite aspect of character action games. You start off with a very bare-bones moveset. You basically have a single sword combo, a single axe combo, and a launcher. That's it. You want anything else? You gotta pay for it. A pretty common problem in this genre is making you buy moves that are pretty much essential to playing effectively. Looking at you, defensive, offensive, and unite guts. But I've never seen it as bad as it is here. Like, are you really making me buy Helmbreaker? Helmbreaker? It's ridiculous. The combat actually feels pretty good once you've unlocked some more moves. I just really wish you didn't start with such a limited moveset. I guess there's loot, but she kinda just floats around you and does her own thing until it's time to parry an enemy. Most of her offensive abilities are dictated by skill trees that give her attacks different attributes. I do like the idea of her as an autonomous ally that you can customize to complement your playstyle, a lot like your Chocobo companion in Final Fantasy XIV, but the different paths on her skill trees don't really feel that different from each other, at least from what I played. Her parries especially feel like a game design shortcut to avoid making enemies with readable attacks because they can just slap the prompt on screen and call it a day. And of course, there's the blue and red energy fields that are required for standing on certain platforms and damaging certain enemy types. What does this add to the game? Well, nothing of substance. At least in the DMC reboot, that mechanic was tied to individual weapons, so it encouraged you to switch things up, but here you're just turning the ability to damage red and blue enemies on and off. The platforming with it is pretty alright at least. Could be worse. Needless to say, I tapped out of Soulstice pretty early on, specifically after unlocking Rapture, which is this game's version of Devil Trigger. A few levels in, there's this flashback sequence that explains a little bit about Lutenbreyer's past, and after that you get this elaborate cutscene where they power up and then you get to tear through a bunch of enemies, and honestly it's pretty awesome. It's a very neat introduction to the ability, so no problems there. But then, in the next level, I went to activate this cool new ability they gave me, and that exact same power-up cutscene played in the middle of combat. No, seriously, watch this play out in real time. I won't even need more b-roll for this segment. It's ridiculous. You can skip it, but it was too late. I realized this game really wasn't for me. Like, I'm sorry, you just can't make me sit through a 20-second long cutscene every single time I want to use DT. That's not how this works. Honestly, I have no clue who Soulstice is even for. It feels way too poisoned by a lot of gaming sensibilities that just don't suit this genre at all. Oh well, not my problem anymore. We're spinning again. Holy shit, fuck yeah. Enna Dream Barbecue, or I guess Chapter 1 of Enna Dream Barbecue, The Lonely Door, is the latest installment in the Enna series, and as a longtime fan, it was really only a matter of time before I got around to checking this out. Enna was already styled like some kind of 90s point-and-click adventure from another dimension, so it's very interesting to see that Dream Barbecue cuts out the middleman and turns Enna into a fully interactive experience, and oh my god, it is wonderful. As a new Enna who's red and green for amazing reasons, your job is to find an entity known as the Boss with the help of your coworker Froggy. Combine that with a heaping sloppy helping of dream logic, and you've got the most convoluted trip to the bathroom you might ever experience in a video game. Despite the trippiness of the setting, the gameplay itself is actually surprisingly straightforward. Progression is pretty linear, and interacting with certain NPCs will open up optional jobs you can complete to unlock new dialogue and alternate paths to the ending. There are secret areas to uncover and some platforming challenges here and there, but the real bread and butter of the game is experiencing the gorgeous visuals and interacting with its huge cast of colorful characters. We've got blobby guys, we've got mecha-lagged Burger Kings, we've got nervous lesbians, we've got Nosferatu. The list just goes on and on and on. There's always some funky new guy around every corner, and you will want to find as many as you can. I think my favorite has to be the 70s British rock star type guy who's actually a robot puppeteered by a traditional Japanese Kuroko. Love this guy. There were so many moments like this that just had me grinning from ear to ear. I really cannot recommend this game enough. It's like the most beautiful love child of Smile for Me and LSD Dream Emulator. Two games I absolutely adore, so it's really no surprise that I enjoyed the hell out of this too. My only real problem is that this first episode is pretty short. It only took me about an hour and a half, and that was just going at my own pace. With all the optional stuff, you can probably stretch that out a bit, but I don't think it'll take longer than a couple hours. It's understandable though. This game is full of amazing 2D animation, and obviously that takes a lot of time and effort to make. I just wish I could say more about it, but I think it's worth seeing for yourself. Either way, what's here is really awesome, and I highly, highly recommend you check this out. I'm definitely looking forward to the full release. Well, there you have it. That's episode 1 of the Backslog. 3 games down, so many, many more to go. Until next. Okay, so I've been playing a lot of Final Fantasy XIV. More than I'd like to admit, honestly, but here we are. I'm not really much of an MMO gamer, but a couple months ago Evercold got announced and my timeline just blew up with Final Fantasy discussion, so I figured I'd try it out for real after getting filtered by A Realm Reborn a couple years ago. I'm happy to say I've been sticking with it, and now I'm officially a Heavensward gamer, so why not walk you through this little hole I've fallen into? It's a nice hole. You'll like it, trust me. But honestly, I'm not even sure where to begin. There's just so much stuff you can do in this game. Did anyone else feel that? But honestly, the huge variety of content is one of the game's greatest strengths. You can spend hours just leveling different jobs and daily roulettes, or you can play through the main story and see what that little gay boy Alphino is up to, or you can just say fuck it and play games in the Gold Saucer all day. If you're like me though, then you'll spend most of your time in the PvP mines because you want to get cute outfits for all your jobs. The fashion game in 14 is honestly insane. I've spent so much time just sitting at the market board trying on different clothes and getting sticker shock just like in real life. Like, why is this baseball cap $500,000? My current goal is to unlock the diadem so I can just spend hours grinding out my crafters and gatherers to make my own clothes. And I hate video game crafting. That's how deep in this hole I am. I'm also enjoying the combat a lot more than I thought I would. Running dungeons with friends has been a lot of fun. Leading the party into a wipe and stone vigil is my favorite pastime. Also, I think this is pretty well known at this point, but 14's community is actually super nice and incredibly supportive to new players. Like, on 2 separate occasions, I've had people come up to me and give me 1,000,000 gil just for being a sprout. Spent it all on clothes, by the way. Even got the baseball cap. But seriously, I feel like the kindness and generosity of this community is so refreshing in the modern-day gaming landscape, and I really want to be able to pay it forward someday. Just look at all these people hanging out in the quicksand. They look like they're having a great time together. Truly, there's nothing more wholesome than Final Fantasy XIV. Oh, I just threw up in my mouth a little.